Hello there, and welcome to another very special episode of Electric Sheep. Since this morning, we have regained our lost subscriber and even another one on top of that. So we're doing really good. But I think I should also mention that the Trojan Core is an overlap episode, and it wasn't mentioned when I released it. But I think that will be both the end of season one and the beginning of season two of Electric Sheep, just so things are a little confusing. I want it to be a transitional episode. I think that's how my season finales will work, because I never want them to be finales. I want them to always be a transition into more. Now, back to the story we have for today. Without any further delay, here is I Am Chainsaw.
I am Chainsaw. All who come to the sacred forest may throw off their old identity and be born anew. The forest had rules older than bark and bone. Fallen soldiers wandered beneath its boughs and returned as squirrels with bright eyes and shaking tails, or as butterflies stitched together from memory and wind. Veterans laid down their weight and became moss, soft and patient. Civilians grown old came to rest among the roots, their names loosening like leaves in autumn until they were only breath and soil. The forest took grief and gave back belonging. A man came to rest in the forest. He lay beneath the canopy and listened to the long breathing of the trees, to the soft negotiations of beetles and birds. He felt the forest's invitation to forget, to become smaller or lighter or quieter, but he did not throw away his old identity. He rested as a man. He slept as a man. And when morning came, his identity was made clear. He awoke holding a chainsaw. The forest shuddered. Squirrels froze on branches. Butterflies stalled midair. Roots tightened their grip on the dark. The chainsaw was a thing of teeth and thunder, born of steel and hunger. It did not belong here. The forest knew hunger too well. But the saw did not scream to life against the living trees. The man stood and listened, and the chainsaw listened with him. Together they walked the forest paths, and where they stopped, the saw bit only the fallen. Trees long dead, rotted trunks ready to collapse, giants hollowed by time and storm. He cut cleanly. He cut gently. He brought down what was already ready to fall, and he laid it to rest so it would not crush saplings or choke the light. He worked until his arms burned and his breath matched the rhythm of the woods. The forest watched. When the last dangerous trunk was lowered, when the old dead trees were made safe and given back to the soil, the forest spoke, not in words, but in relief. The chainsaw was accepted. Steel and bark reached an understanding. The man was allowed to remain. Dark forces noticed. From beyond the green borders came whispers and rot, claws scraping at the edges of the sacred place. Demon kings, bloated with conquest, followed the scent of rebirth and devouring. They entered the woods with crowns of horn and eyes like furnaces, certain that this place of rest would be easy meat. They were not unopposed. In the man's heart, the predator still lived. Not the predator that kills for hunger alone, but the one that protects its territory, that knows when to bare its teeth. The forest felt that truth and answered it. Roots rose and bark twisted, shaping a mask from ancient oak, terrible and holy. It fused to his face, grain and knot forming a snarl older than language. He lifted the chainsaw. The demon kings laughed, their voices shaking leaves from branches. Everything you know, they said, everything you are, will be taken into our bellies. The man did not argue. He did not plead. He pulled the cord. The chainsaw roared, a scream of defiance and purpose, echoing through the sacred wood. Birds scattered. The forest leaned in. He screamed back, I am Chainsaw!
Well, like many of my stories, it is a sudden end and more a beginning to a story than a story in itself. But I like the height. To me, that moment of culmination in a story is the height of a story. And as much as it's nice to have resolution, I find that nothing ever really gets past that point. And so I just leave it at the high point and figure the person experiencing the story can take it from there if they wish, or maybe there will be another part if people request, or maybe I'll just decide to do so. But that is why many of my stories seem incomplete, because I like to leave things off on a high point, because the story has to end somewhere, anyways. Why not at the most epic point? I guess you'd call that a cliffhanger. I used to be not a big fan of cliffhangers, but I think I've grown to love them. So I am sorry if anybody's frustrated by them. If you do want me to resolve these stories, feel free to ask. I can do that. That was some feedback I had received a little while ago on the Trojan Core. He said it just ends, and it's like, well, yeah, but it's all about the path to, in that case, resurrection. And for this story, man and chainsaw are somewhat one and the same, and that's a little bit confusing why he's saying I am chainsaw, not just eat my chainsaw or something like that. It's maybe comparable to the idea of the samurai and his sword. They are separate, but they are also joined. The At least according to the Last Samurai, um, a samurai's sword is his soul. Whether or not that's actually true to samurai ideas, I don't know. I've only looked into them a little bit. I have read the Code of the Samurai, but it was more basic introduction stuff. It didn't actually get into sword stuff. Well, it did talk about how you're never supposed to cover the handles of swords, like they're always supposed to be accessible and able to pull them out and stuff. But the way that these things are comparable is that you say, "My soul is the sword. I am the chainsaw." I am chainsaw. As everyone in this forest comes into an identity of sorts, the man didn't abandon the fact that he was a man, but the man can be many things, and that includes the user of a chainsaw. And you are what you do. You call him a chainsaw. That sounds off. And in this mystical, fantastic forest, where you are part of the forest, and the mask may symbolize him losing a bit of his identity and a bit of his human self and giving into the identity of the chainsaw, not as a tool of man as much as it is a protector of the forest. Because we know a man or a thing with a chainsaw is a very fearsome foe indeed. We know well, because of the realm of horror, that the chainsaw is a very scary thing. And we know why the forest was afraid when it first saw the chainsaw. It's the same reason why maybe the demon lord should also be afraid, because they say they're going to take these things into themselves, and, well, it's usually not very good for the person who takes a chainsaw into themselves. But let me know if you like this story, whether or not you think it's complete, or if you like the way I leave things off. Leave any feedback you like. Um, my name is Joseph Arthur Roszell. You might know me as Captain Canada. I want to wish you all the luck in the world. And if I didn't already just do that, thank you very, very much for watching and listening. I love you, and I want you to know that suicide is never the answer. Peace out for now.